Welcome to Youth Diversion's webinar on digital parenting in the age of COVID-19. My name is Joanna Conrad, and today we will be hosting part one of a five-part series. My guest today is Sergeant Jeff Taylor, who is with the I.C.E. unit of Windsor Police. Let's talk about the presence of online predators, because we know as much as kids can get into various communications between themselves or amongst one another, they're also communicating with strangers online too. And we're going to get to that in a little bit when it comes to some of these different apps that are out there that actually promote talking to complete strangers. But you know that there is that component of online predators. So can you talk to me about you know, how predators might find young people online?
Sure. Let's face it, there are tons of creeps on the internet, and the internet is a candy store to predators. And you know why? It's because kids share too much on all of their social media. And we talked about it before. It's all about the likes. It's about the shares and the retweets. But in order to do that, they open themselves up, and they need more people to access them. And they sacrifice their security for their adulation. So predators know what they're doing. They go looking for vulnerable people. They go looking for kids that are just out there. They share all this information on the internet, and they share too much in the fact that when I start an investigation as a police officer, the very first thing I do is go to social media, and I learn everything I need to know about my suspect, because I'll know when their birthday is. I know when what their pets' names are. I know who their spouses are. I know who their kids are. I know who their family is. I know where they work. And if it's not themselves giving it away, it's somebody they know. They tag you in a photo that you didn't even know you were tagged in. So there's just so much information out there. It's easy for predators, and they gravitate towards that kind of information, and then they'll try to chat up your daughter or son, and they know a lot about your likes and your interests, and they lean on that heavily. And so that's their foot in the door. And they can get you on any kind of platform. It can be on social media. It can be on your Xbox. It can be on anything. It's very important that parents and children especially know the signs of what a predator, how to detect a predator, and what their motives are. And the biggest signs to me is a predator, it will start to groom you. And in grooming, it means that they're trying to lure you into some sort of sexual activity and gain your confidence. So, and the most way that people do that is they compliment you a lot. They're very chatty. They ask a lot of questions about you, and they will always agree with you. And they'll ask you what you do for fun. And if you say, well, I play soccer, well, then that's what they do. So they really gain your confidence and your trust. Watch out for somebody that wants to buy you gifts. Wanting to meet, especially, obviously, is a big thing. Or they always want to talk privately in another room. And sometimes we'll get off topic, and you'll be playing Xbox, and they'll start talking something sexual. Something that didn't have anything to do with the game. It's important that the parents teach their kids to be able to kind of know these kind of signs. And just when you're playing a game, you talk about the game. We don't talk about other things. We don't ever tell anybody our address. We don't ever tell anybody our real name. We don't tell anybody where we go to school. We don't tell anybody anything unless you are 100% certain you know this person and you trust that person.
What would you say are some ways that a parent might be able to tell if their child has been communicating with a predator?
Well, again, so those signs in the conversations, if they're reading the conversations, those kind of things will show up. But they'll be secretive about it. If they kind of know that it's wrong, they'll be secretive. They'll quickly switch apps. They may get really, really upset if you take their tech away. You know, they just may be disenchanted with the family environment at the moment. They may be distant. So I mean, like, those are warning signs in no matter what, like, because that could be a sign of bullying too. Most of the time, it's with the chats, and you have to tell your kids that we like the people you like. Ask them questions, not probing questions, but just kind of shoot the breeze with them and ask them questions. Oh, so tell me about your friends online. Tell me what you guys talk about. Did you meet so-and-so again yesterday online? Just kind of bring it up so you can gauge yourself. And if you can, obviously, try to read the chats.
I think sometimes with parents, parents like to think that their child is safe from meeting a predator online, or that their child is involved in all these extracurricular activities, and so that makes them that much more safe, from potentially engaging with someone negative. And I always say that if your child is online, whether it's through gaming or social media or whatever, they are at risk, right? I mean, we've got predators on so many different platforms, and the child can be very well mannered, and they can be stable, and they can have great connections. And it's not, I always say that predators don't discriminate, right? And it's really easy to spark up a conversation with a kid when you know so much about them. And everyone has a bad day here or there, so a really well-balanced kid may one day have a bad day and complain about their parent, for example, online, or might make a comment to somebody in a gaming chat and say, oh, my mom is so annoying, she grounded me for this or that or whatever. And now all of a sudden that predator has a really easy in as well, right?
Absolutely,
say,
yes.
oh yeah, I know what that's like. Tell me more. How could she do that to you? And then all of a sudden, there's those other techniques that they might initiate, where they're really trying to create that barrier between the parent and the child, and trying to pull them away from their parents, to really isolate them, and to potentially really get them to feel that they are their best friend, that the predator is really looking after their best interests, and so that the child or the teenager really should just really trust them and engage in, whether it's meeting with them or sending them information or whatever they're looking for.
That's right. And we've had cases where these predators have worked on something, meaning gaining the trust of a child for years, talking as a child, and being their go-to. And whenever they had a problem, they would go and tell their life story to this predator. Meanwhile, it's a 50-year-old man in Virginia or something. But they believe this is a 13-year-old kid because this person has gained their trust for years, and they work hard at it. And now don't think that that's the only child they're working on either. So it's not like they spent all this time on this one, when they probably have dozens of them that they're working on constantly. And then eventually that's going to turn into a meet.
The other avenue that oftentimes people utilize to meet others is online dating. And when we're looking at online dating, technically the apps are intended for adults, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. However, adults are, quote unquote, maybe more aware of some of the dangers online. And parents may be under the impression that online dating may not relate to their child, or it's not something that they have to worry about. But I know, for example, that there are plenty of apps that are directed towards kids, such as Yellow, for example. It's basically an app for kids under the age of 18 that really speaks to them making friends, quote unquote, online, and share photos and have fun with them. And so it's really encouraging those types of relationships for kids under the age of 18. But we also know that kids can access various apps, whether it's Tinder or Hinge or Grindr or OkCupid, by lying about their age, right? And posting a maybe racier photo of themselves, or just getting one off the internet, right? And ultimately looking to meet with someone online. So what might be some of the concerns when it comes to kids and dating apps? And have you seen any concerns through your work?
Kids on dating apps, there's just nothing really that we can do about that. All depends on what's happening online. If they lie online and they're hiding it from their parents, and they say they're 18, there's not much we can do about that. But so again, parents need to be aware of what's installed on their devices, even Facebook or Twitter or even Instagram. You have to be 13 in order to have an account on there. How many kids do you know that have these accounts? They're 10. And some of the parents lie for them. So, it's up again. I hate to sound like a broken record, but it all comes back to the proper parenting and to instill the proper belief that this is how we do things. We do things right. And you can't have a Facebook account and you can't have an Instagram account until you're 13. It's the rules. And don't let any kid tell you any different, because they'll go to their iPhone and they'll open up the App Store and it'll say 12. And that's just the rating of the app. It's not the Facebook terms of agreement. So it's always 13 at the very least. And parents need to do that. And I keep saying this to parents, and I'm not here to tell you it's going to be easy. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to police this, because you don't know anything. Your kids know everything about technology, and they will run circles around you. And when you do see Tinder on there and you go, what is this? They'll tell you something else if they're afraid that you're going to kill them. So it's important that you, as a parent, educate yourself. Know what your kids are doing. Do a Google search. Say, what's the hottest kids apps out right now? What's the hottest apps for teens, and why? Why are all these kids gravitating towards Snapchat or whatever it is? Because when Snapchat came out, it was for sexting. It was designed specifically to send your nudes so that they would disappear. But people can screen capture. People can record the screen with another phone. So there's no real safety in it. But educate yourself. Know what your kids are talking about when you read their chats. Learn all their acronyms. Learn their slang, because you need to know exactly what they're talking about, and don't just shrug it off. This is a long road ahead of you to learn all this stuff. And the better you get at it, the better your kid's going to be.
Again, there are so many different things, whether it is various apps that come around. And trust me, this is something that technically I do for a living, and trying to find out what's going on so that we can understand what the kids that we work with are participating in. But it's almost impossible to stay on top of. It's a huge daunting task, but one that parents, I think, really need to take on and take an effort and in really learning, right? And having those communications with their kids. And at the end of the day, if you have a strong relationship with your child and they feel that they can talk to you about what they're doing online, you've already won half the battle, right? It's having that open line of communication. We know that there's various apps out there that kids can download that hide their activities, whether it's pictures or videos, that may seem to be something else, like the calculator app. But there's also various chats and various apps out there, platforms such as Omegle or Chat Roulette, Whisper, again, that are seemingly innocent. Like Whisper, for example, where you're able to talk about your deepest, darkest secrets in a very anonymous fashion. And parents can't turn a blind eye. Even, for example, when it comes to such apps as Instagram, right? We know for the most part, Instagram is about sharing photos. And of course, you can find very racy photos on there. There's fake accounts that kids sometimes create for themselves so that they can post things that parents don't find online. But now there's something that is called OnlyFans. I'm not sure whether you've heard of OnlyFans. I'm sure you have through your line of work. And OnlyFans is ultimately an app that encourages users to upload content that followers were actually paid to see. So the app claims that users can earn a ton of money. Actually, I recently read an article where the top OnlyFans earner was getting $100,000 a year for the content that she was posting online. So when you have things like this out there, obviously, I don't know about you, but I mean, that sounds a lot better to me than flipping burgers at McDonald's for minimum wage, right? When I can earn anywhere between $1,500 to even $7,000 or more a week by uploading photos and videos of myself, right, to my followers. And oftentimes I'll have conversations about this with my own colleagues or peers of mine, and they're like, OnlyFans, what's that? But I mean, this is something that we know kids that are very young, 12, 13 years old, are signing up and posting basically pornographic images of themselves and not knowing, really who's on the other end and what they're doing with this content and what that might mean for them in the long run.
The OnlyFans and the Snapchats and the Whispers, they're a dime a dozen. There are so many apps out there that cater to whatever is the hottest thing at the moment. And kids are always looking for the newest thing. And they always look for the newest thing once their parents get on the oldest thing. So Facebook used to be the thing. And as soon as all the parents got on Facebook, everybody jumped ship. And yep, you're right. They have fake accounts, like Instagram accounts, because their parents insist on following them so they can see what they're doing. And they'll create a fake account. I think they call them Finstagrams for a fake account. And they will give that to their parents and their family so that and they'll upload content that's parent approved. And then yet they'll have a Rinsta, their real Instagram account, which is where they do all the other stuff and only their friends and their followers can see what they're really doing. So you got to be that this April, they had 4 times the amount of reports than they did last April. 4 times. So that's 4 million reports in the month of April of 2020. So kids are bored. And parents are bored. Parents need to set an example too. If you say to your kid, I don't want you on that device all day, then you better get off that device all day. Do what you say. I know people don't use that at the dinner table. We're having dinner, but yet they're on their phone at the dinner table. You have to set the example, and setting the example is educating yourself. And so your kid, you might be more educated on some sort of things on some of these devices and some of these apps than your kid will be. And that's the goal, if you ask me. You know about it before they know about it.
When it comes to, some of the behaviors or things that, a parent's child might become engaged in, is there anything that you can suggest or rather share how the police might become involved or how the police may assist parents? Because I mean, obviously, not everything warrants a police call. So can you explain how the police might become involved to assist parents and when or if parents should reach out to the police?
Well, here's the issue is once the police get involved, it's too late. I can't assist anybody because now I have to fix something because something's gone wrong once the police get involved. Now, my advice to parents is if anything has happened to your child, either they're being bullied or they're involved in some sextortion or something, never, ever, ever delete anything. Okay, because then once you delete things, it makes our job a lot harder. Not saying we won't get to where we need to get, but it makes our job a lot harder, especially if you're the complainant. And you need to educate your kid on that too. If something's happened to you, don't delete it out of embarrassment or shame. You need to keep it because it's valuable evidence. If you're being harassed, do not respond. Do not respond to anything and report it immediately. There's all kinds of crimes that anybody can get into. Like kids are kids. They do dumb things. And sometimes dumb things turn into big things and we have to get involved. And that's where we come in and we do our job and we send them to youth diversion at first. But I mean, if they don't learn their lesson, that's when we come into actual criminal charges. We've had, again, sextortion, we've had blackmail, we've had bullying, we've had bomb threats, death threats, we've had it all. And a lot of the times it's just a silly kid thinking it was a good laugh. It's not funny. It's not funny because that day when we yank everybody out of their high school and we lock it down and we lock down the neighboring houses and other schools, that's a lot of resources.
I want to thank you for offering your expertise on some of these wild topics that are really taking over when it comes to our online world and the things that we're seeing. I think the main thread from today really can be said is that parents really need to work on the communication that they're having with their children at home, right? Especially when it comes to what they're doing online and having those conversations early. For the parents that are perhaps listening to this with teenagers and thinking, okay, great, you know, what do I do now? I think that parents need to know it's not too late, even though maybe some of those conversations haven't been had. Having that open communication is critical. So Jeff, thanks so much for participating in Youth Diversion's webinar on digital parenting in the age of COVID-19. We encourage you to look through our website for additional information and to contact our office for additional support services.